So good afternoon, class. My name is Rohanan. We're gonna talk about the parental authority. So the first part is chapter one, the general provision. So if you read Article 209 and Article 210, it's basically in general. So what I'm gonna talk about is parental authority. So parental authority is defined as the mass right and obligation of a parent, which is related to the person and property of their children under the majority age of 18 years old or the emancipation. But there are instances where it's still practiced after during the emancipation, which is for the next one is an example of it is during marriage. So we all know naman na dati in our previous discussion is despite the fact that the person who wants to get married is 18 years old, he has to get parental consent from his parents. So technically that's part of parental authority. So comes along with parental authority is duties and right. This will be discussed further by other group mates. So an example of this is the case of Sagala Islao versus the Court of Appeals. It's in our Rabuya book. So if you want to read it, you can read it. So I'm just gonna summarize what's the most important fact over there. It states that the right of parents to the custody of their minor child is a natural right, and it's inherited naturally. So it's supported by the law and public policy. So it's not made by the decision of the state or the public or courts. So parental authority and responsibility are inalienable and may not be transferred or renounced except in cases authorized by the law. What are those cases? Those cases are adoption, guardianship, and surrender to children's home and orphan institution as long as the law authorizes it. Your parental authority may be waived. For the next.
So good afternoon, everyone. So I'm George, and I will be discussing Articles 211 and 212. So this pertains to who exercises parental authority. So it is the father. So there is joint parental authority. So the parental authority is exercised by both the father and the mother over their common children. In the cases of disagreement, there are cases wherein the father's decision prevails. In the case of Article 14 under the Family Code, so parental consent for marriage. Article 78 of the Family Code as well, so parental consent for marriage settlement. So this only applies for legitimate children only. So in the case of illegitimate children, they are only under the parental authority of the mother, and only the mother can provide consent under Articles 14 and 78, as mentioned. And this also this applies even if the father admits paternity. So it doesn't change the fact whether the child is acknowledged or not. The child is still under the parental authority of the mother. So in case of the absence or death of either parent, the parent present shall continue to exercise parental authority. In the case of remarriage of the surviving spouse, there is no effect to the parental authority over children unless the court appoints another person to be the guardian of the person or property of the child or children. So another topic is the visitation right. So this is the right of access of a non-custodial parent to his or her children, to his or her child or children. So let me present to you the case of Silva versus the Court of Appeals. So this is the case wherein a married businessman cohabited with an unmarried actress, and the cohabitation resulted to the birth of two children. So after a while, so things went south. So they parted ways, and the mother married a Dutch national and brought the children to Holland. So in that case, Silva filed for visitation rights, which was approved. But then, given the departure of the children, it was reversed. So this was the reason of Silva's appeal. So the issue here is whether or not the visitorial rights should be conferred back to Silva. So the Supreme Court sustained the visitorial right of an illegitimate father over his children in view of the constitutionally protected inherent and natural right of parents over their children. So he was allowed because the Constitution speaks in terms of the natural and primary rights of parents in the rearing of the youth. there is nothing conclusive to indicate that the provisions are solely for legitimate relationships. In all cases involving a child, his interest and welfare is always with our consideration. Thank you.
Hey, I am Jenny Nicole Arsena, and I'm going to discuss Articles 213 to 215. So in Article 213, in case of separation of the parents, parental authority shall be exercised by the parent designated by the court. So that is the general rule. However, although the court may designate the parental authority to another parent, the other parent is not deprived of the parental authority. So in legal separation, it is stated that the custody of the minor child shall be awarded to the innocent spouse. So in that case, it is clearly stated and designated by the court that the custody shall be awarded to the innocent spouse. So when we say custody, it is the sum of all parental authority. So these includes the right to decide the education of the child, the health, religion, the right to direct the activities of the child. So in exercising the parental authority, however, it does not bar the guilty spouse from parental authority as well. So say, for example, in the case of an adoption, the innocent spouse still has to ask for the permission of the guilty spouse, whether or not they will allow the adoption of their child. So next, we have tender age presumption. So this just states that a mother is preferred to be a mother is preferred to be the best custodian of a child under 7 years of age, unless the court finds compelling reasons to order otherwise. So the word "shall" in that provision is mandatory in character. So what do we mean by compelling reasons? These are grounds or justifications that would deprive the mother and would deem her unfit for custody of the child. So these are first, insanity, abandonment, neglect, drug addiction, affliction with a communicable disease, maltreatment of the child, immorality, unemployment, habitual drunkenness. So in this case, Espiritu versus Court of Appeals, where the mother and the father got separated and the mother was living with another man in the house, and it caused an emotional disturbance and psychological disturbance to the child such that it caused her anxiety. So the court held that the immoral values that are being inflicted to the child should make the mother unfit to have custody. So in this case, in the next case, Pablo Gualberto versus Gualberto, the court here just imposed that in order to deprive the wife of custody, the husband has to establish that the moral lapse has to have an adverse effect on the welfare of the child, because the paramount consideration here is the general welfare of the child in question. So, and then next is in disturbing the party proper parental care in the child. So parental preference rule, this just means that the natural parents who are capable and who are able to support the child has to be given the priority of custody over third parties. And if the child is older than 7 years of age, then he has the right to state his or her preference, but the court is not bound by that choice. So the court has to consider other aspects in order to rule the custody or to whom to give the custody. Okay, so in case of absence or death of either party, the parent present shall continue exercising parental authority. In case of remarriage of either parent, it shall not affect the parental authority over the children, unless the court appoints another person, a third party, to be the guardian of the child. And in case of legal or de facto separation of the parent designated by the court. Okay, so Article 214, this just imposes, in the absence of the parents or in default of the parents, the substitute parental authority shall be given to the grandparents because they are deemed to be the natural and suitable persons to exercise parental authority. And in Article 215, so this just states that no descendant shall be compelled in a criminal case to testify against his parents, grandparents, except when such testimony is indispensable in a crime against the descendant or by one parent against the other. So the importance of this provision is family cohesion or family unity, because the absence of this provision would actually create violence within the family. So, this is actually supplemented by Rule 130 of the Rules of Court. In distinguishing the two, we have in Article 215, it is applicable only in criminal proceedings. In Rule 130, it may be invoked in both civil and criminal cases. In Article 215, it is invoked only by descendants, by the grandparents or the parents. But in Rule 130, it can be invoked by either ascendants or descendants. And the privilege is not absolute because we have an exception that was stated earlier that descendants can be compelled to testify against the parents and grandparents. But in Rule 130, there is no exception. That's it.
Wow.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Adams Thompson Gabriel, and my presentation for today is all about substitute and special parental authority. But just to set your expectation, the first part will be discussed by yours truly, and then the other one will be discussed by April. So let's move on. So dito sa substitute parental authority, bali 214 and 216 magkadugtong siya. Hindi pwedeng gamitin si 216 without 214. So according dito, under Article 214 of the Code, substitute parental authority may only be exercised by the person designated in Article 216 of the Code in case of death, absence, or unsuitability of both parents. Again, always remember the word only and the word both in this one. So let's define substitute parental authority. So parental or subject parental authority can be defined as parental authority which the persons designated by law may exercise, again using itong tatlong basis, kung patay or kung wala yung isang parents or kung hindi siya suitable. Now let's illustrate this using the case of Vancil versus Belmes. So in the case of Vancil versus Belmes, si Bonifacia, siya yung lola nung dalawang bagets. So let's say, si Bonifacia si lola, and then ito yung anak niya, si Redier. And then si Redier, meron siyang common law wife na si Helen. Ngayon dun sa pagsasama nila, may dalawang bagets, may dalawang bunga yung pagsasama nila, which is si Valerie and then si Vincent. Ang nangyari, namatay si Redier, namatay si kuya nyo. So, ending, syempre, naiwan yung dalawang bagets sa custody ng nanay kasi syempre kanino ba siya magpupunta, di ba? Ngayon, ang lola Bonifacia nyo, nag-invoke ng petition, sabi niya, sa akin dapat magpunta yung mga apo ko with, again, with 100,000. So parang, eto yung ni-invoke niya na, yung petition dapat mapunta sa akin, and at the same time, ako yung magmamanage ng property ng dalawang bagets. Siyempre, ang nanay Helen hindi pumayag. So, nag-file siya ng petition sa RTC. Sabi niya, no, hindi dapat si... by the way, ang nag-file ng petition na una, si Lola. Kinuha niya yung petition. Ngayon, ginrant yung petition niya ni RTC. Ngayon, nag-file siya ng motion for consideration. Sabi niya, reconsideration. Sabi niya sa RTC, no, hindi dapat sa kanya mapunta. Tanggalin natin si Lola. Sa akin dapat mapunta. Ngayon, hindi ginrant ni RTC yun. Siyempre, hindi pumayag si Nanay Helen. Nag-file siya sa CA. Ngayon ang CA, pumayag. Ginrant yung petition niya. Sabi niya, sige, since ikaw yung nanay ng dalawang bagets, dapat sa'yo mapunta. And at the same time, ikaw yung magmamanage ng property, which is, again, yung 100,000 na worth of pension from the death of their father. Now, siyempre, hindi na naman pumayag ang ating Lola Bonifacia. Nag-file siya ng petition sa Supreme Court. Ngayon, ito ang decision ng Supreme Court. By the way, ito pala yung issue. So again, kanina mapupunta yung petition nung dalawang bagets, kay nanay ba or dun sa lola? Sabi ng Supreme Court, dapat mapunta yon sa natural mother kasi nga, syempre, hindi mo pwede sa lola kasi boy pa naman yung nanay niya. Again, let's go back dun sa sinabi ko kanina. Mapupunta lang yung custody nung apo niya kung patay na yung dalawang lola. In this case, buhay pa, aangkinin mo na yung apo mo. So, di ba, medyo unfair sa part ni mother. So, yun. So, ito yung tatlong tao na pwedeng mag-qualify dito sa substitute parental authority. First, yung grandparents nga. Again, kung patay na, or kung absent yung dalawang parent, or kung hindi suitable yung dalawang parents. Ngayon, pag hindi ito nag-qualify, itong si grandparents, papasok tayo dito sa oldest brother or sister. But then again, let's remember na 21 years old and above lang yung pwedeng mag-qualify dito. Same with this one, yung sa child's actual custodian.
Continuing, Tom's report, I will be discussing articles 217, 218, 219. So, this is mine. Article 217, in the case that when nobody loves the children, so I will call this article 217, di mahal na mama mo. So, there are three elements that we should remember here in Article 217. The types of the children that doesn't love back, and the types of what is a child welfare agency, and the process of transfer of parental authority. So these are the types of the children. Founding, like Grace Pope, so she's a newborn child. A newborn child abandoned his parents who are unknown. Abandoned child, those who are one who has no proper parental care or guardianship, or whose parents or guardians have deserted him for a period of at least 6 continuous. By the way, it's in the handout. So, neglected child, one whose basic needs have been deliberately unattended or inadequately unattended, and it may occur in two ways. So, physical neglect, and emotional neglect, this was previously discussed by Mr. Severino on the third group discussed this very thoroughly. So we are on the hurry. So, abused child can come with the emotional neglect, and then the dependent child, one who is without a parent or guardian custodian, one who is very dependent upon the parent. So a child welfare agency. So when you're interested in adopting a child, you should see to it that the child welfare agency has secured the license from the DSWD, and the license is non-transferable and is only by the person or institution to which it was issued at the place stated therein, and the purpose and function of the agency is clearly defined in the license. So, when you go to a bahay ampunan, you should check the license. So, there's a purpose. Surprise. So, the transfer parental authority, there are three agencies. So, children's homes, orphanages, and similar institutions accredited by the proper government agency. So we should remember that they should be licensed. Okay. So there are two ways of transfer. So involuntary, which is conducted by the DSWD and its authorized representative, having a knowledge of a child being lost, being neglected, and then there's a voluntary transfer, which is the parent, with all of his heart, gave up the child. So no child shall be committed unless he is surrendered in writing by his parents. So remember, if you're planning to adopt a kid who is being voluntarily surrendered by his or her parents, you should remember that there should be a written consent, or it should be in writing. So Article 218 and 219. To remember this article, I'm calling it Cassie Doctrine. So, because it's about school. So, it can be exercised, special parental authority, it can be exercised only by the school, its administrators and teachers, and individual entity or institution engaged in childcare, such as the preschool childcare. So, it can be exercised only over minors while under their supervision, instruction, or custody. So, meaning within school time, one is practicing special parental authority. And the authority supervision is also extended with the activities of the school. It should be official and the authorized activities such as field trips, recess, and etc. So, only with respect to unemancipated persons and their liability will attach only in such case. So, liabilities of persons possessing special parental authorities liable for acts, omissions, of the unemancipated minor unless proven that they exercise the proper diligence required under particular circumstances. So it must be proven that the one who's having special parental authority are exercising due diligence. So a school, no distinction between academic or non-academic. So hostility of the school includes recess time, as I said a while ago, liable under the principal or respondent superior considers that it's the employer of the liable teacher or the head. Administrators and teachers. The teachers must be the teacher in charge, the advisor, not the physics teacher, not the math teacher, but the advisor. So heads of establishments of arts and trades is liable. And individual entity or institution engaged in childcare. So to further elaborate the case of the Cassie Doctrine, Articles 218, 219, sample is the St. Mary's Academy versus Carpitanos. So the facts is that, summarize it. So, St. Mary's is conducting an enrollment drive, so they have a student council and Capistranos. Sherwin is part of the student council, so he came with a group, and then there was an accident where awful accident, and then the parents of Sherwin filed damages to the St. Mary's Academy, and then this was appealed by St. Mary's. So the issue is, should St. Mary's of the Colon be held personally liable for the death of Sherwin due to the special parental authority exercised by the former over the latter? So the ruling was no, since the St. Mary's was not the proximate cause of the accident causing the death of Sherwin, since St. Mary, the authorities of St. Mary's didn't give the permission to the driver since the minor was a child. So that's it. So turning over to the next reporter. Oh, there's no new report. Here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to discuss Chapter 3, the effect of parental authority upon the persons of the children. It covers the Article 220 to 224, and I call it Sinilang ka sa mundo nito. So basically, this is the parental rights of the spouses with their children. It means the sum total rights of parents as well as the rights of the child in and to the parent. So, reciprocal yung relationship between a parent and a child. So, as shown, these are the rights by the parents to their children. I'm not going to discuss all of that, but the more important. So, first, the right to child custody. So, whenever parent conceive a child, pagulugin na so may karapatan yung mga magulang na magkaroon ng kustudiya sa mga anak nila. The right of parents to the custody of their minor children is one of the natural rights incident to parenthood. So basically, it's automatically na magkakaroon ng rights yung parent. In case of illegitimate child case, these are the rights of the spouses. So, the mother has the sole parental authority of the child. Of course, absent of any imperative cause showing her unfitness to exercise such authority. While the father is entitled for the visitation rights to the child. Sample case of illegitimate child, the David versus C.A. So, to si David, si lola mo, nagkaroon ng relationship sa isang lalaki na may may asawa, legal wife. So, nagkaroon sila ng relationship and nagkaroon sila ng anak. Yung lalaki gustong ampunin yung bata. And yung lalaki may kaya and kinontent dyan na mahirap lang yung babae. So ang desisyon ng korte binigay sa babae. Because as we said, the mother has the sole authority of the parental authority of the child. Next also, sample case of Medina versus Macabini. Si Medina, babae, nanganak sa isang clinic, which is ang doktor si Macabili. Nung pagkapanganak, iniwan na lang siya sa clinic. So, nung lumaki na yung bata, binalikan siya ni Medina para kuhanin ulit. Pero ang sabi ng korte, while our law recognizes the right of the parent to the custody of her child, court must not lose sight of the basic principles that in all questions on the care, custody, education, and property of children, the latter's welfare shall be paramount. So yung si Dr. Macabili, siya yung nakapagbigay ng enough rights ng bata, kaya sa kanya grinant yung custody ng bata. Duty to provide support. Sa every children must have the support from his or her parent. The obligation of the parent to support their children is not coterminous with the exercise of parental authority. It means, kahit na nawala yung parental authority ng nanay-tatay niya, nandun pa rin dapat yung support nung natanggalan ng parental authority. Next, duty of representation. So ito yung mga documents na kailangan ng consent ng magulang na minor child. So as provided rin ng Section 5, Rule 3 of the 1997 Rules of Civil Procedure, yung court binibigyan ng guardian ad litem yung isang minor, which is siya yung magre-represent sa minor. Right to give or withhold consent. Doon nga sa natutunan natin sa marriage, as provided in the family code, 21 below must have parent consent. This is also the reason why in the Igor versus Ochoa, the court declared unconstitutional the Section 7 of the RH law or the RA 10354. Because it said in the Section 7 that no person shall be denied information and access to family planning services, whether natural or artificial, provided that minors will not be allowed to access modern methods of family planning without written consent from their parents or guardians, except when the minor is already a parent or had a miscarriage. So, other duties imposed by law. So, 15 years old, basically, hindi siya pwede magtrabaho. But, ang sabi ng batas, basta ang trabaho niya is ang mga members lang din doon, family members lang din, and under the sole responsibility of his or her parents. So there are two types of liabilities of parents for damages caused by the minor children. Ang alam nga natin na bawal nga makasuhan yung mga minor, so may liability pa rin yung parents, which is liability of parents for quasi-delicts and liability of parents for crimes committed by their minor. So from the possible delicts, they can be charged under the or liable under the Family Code Article 221 and 2180, while in the crimes, they can be punishable and held liable in RPC Article 101. For quasi-delicts, Article 221, there are three conditions that should be met by the parent. The minor is leaving the company of his parents, the minor is under their parental authority, and the parents fail to exercise all the diligence of a good father of the family to prevent damage. It was also sample case under Under 2180, the father in case of his death or incapacity, the mother is responsible for the damages of the minor. So as provided, below 21 years old, the parents still liable. Provided also in the revised penal code article 101. Parents can also be held criminalized. All parents can be also we have their disciplinary actions provided as shown in the slide.
Next. Kaya pa dalawa, kaya pa.
Dalawa.
Dalawa pa.
Sabay-sabay na.
Okay.
Di ba ate? Sige, huwag mo muna. Ayan, okay.
So, I'm Mary Grace Peralta and I'm about to tackle Chapter 4, Articles 225. Article 225 speaks of legal guardian of minors' property. As a legal guardian, the parents there is no more need to appoint, there is no more need for a judicial court order appointing the parents as guardian. In case of disagreement, the father's decision shall prevail unless there's a judicial court order to the contrary. In guardianship proceeding, when the court appoints another guardian, it automatically terminates the authority of the parents to administer the children's property. But the guardians of the unemancipated children are required to furnish a bond when the amount of the property exceeds more than 50,000, but not less than 10% of the annual income or property of the children. The reason for this is to guarantee the performance of the guardians in the performance of their obligation. The summary proceeding, parents are required to take care immediately the affairs of the minor children. In alienation and encumbrance, any act of dispossession or alienation or any reduction in the substance of the patrimony of child exceeds the limits of the administration. Meaning to say, the property of the children should not be conveyed to another. So Article 26, it speaks of the ownership of the child's property. The child himself owns the property acquired by him through nature or through his work or industry, and must be primarily used for his welfare, support, and education. If the child's property is more than sufficient to support himself, then the property should only be used for the daily needs of the family. And then lastly, Article 227 refers to the allowance of unemancipated children. Parents who not engage their unemancipated children should be entitled to the net fruits of the proceeds of the properties. The law provides that the proceeds that's given in full or in part shall not be charged to the child's parents.
Good afternoon, I am Michelle Anagay, and now we'll be talking about suspension or termination of parental authority. So just like all rights, parental authority is also subject to extinction or termination. So what are the grounds for termination of parental authority? So this can be classified further into two, which is permanent and termination, which can be subsequently revived by the court. So first, permanent termination, this cannot be revived in any way. So upon the death of the parents, upon the death of the child, and upon the emancipation of the child. Next, there are also termination which is deemed permanent but may be subsequently revived by the court. Okay. So if there is no revival by the court, this is deemed permanent. So the first one is upon the adoption of the child. Okay. Next is upon the appointment of a general guardian. So this has been discussed already. Third is upon judicial declaration of abandonment of the child in a case filed for the purpose. And then judicial declaration of absence or incapacity of the person exercising parental authority. And last one is upon the final judgment of a competent court divesting the party concerned of parental authority. Next, also, a parental authority is also subject to suspension. So what are the grounds for suspension? If the parent or the person exercising the same, first, is convicted of a crime which carries the penalty of civil interdiction. So, based on discussion earlier, civil interdiction carries with it the effect of deprivation of the right to parental authority. So, upon conviction, parental authority is suspended and reinstated after service of the penalty or upon pardon or amnesty. Second, if the parent treats child with excessive harshness or cruelty, gives the child corrupting orders, counsel, or example. Third is by compelling the child to beg, and last is by subjecting the child or allowing him to be subjected to acts of lasciviousness. Okay. This can be suspended by a decree by the court in an action filed for that purpose or in a related case, and can be subsequently reinstated upon the order of the court when it finds the cause has ceased and will not be repeated. Again, these are other provisions which are discussed earlier.
All right. All right. So next article is going to be from the article 234 to 237. Now, and that's emancipation and age of minority. By the way, I'm Cesar Lee Bartolome. Okay. Now, Article 234 and 236 were amended by RA 6809, while Articles 236 and or 35 and 237 were repealed by the same RA 6809. Okay, now emancipation, as I picture, emancipation is like a butterfly coming out of this cocoon. It's like fly bakla, fly bakla. No, but the definition is that it's freeing the child from the parental authority and custody of and from the obligation to render services of parent. Now, when does it take place? Emancipation takes place when a child reaches the age of minority. And age of minority, as amended by RA 6809, is at the age of 18. All right. Now, there are few, not really few, but legal effects of emancipation. One is emancipation for any causes shall terminate parental authority over the person and property of the child. Another one is the contracting of marriage. Child require parental consent until the age of 21. And noted from the code is it should not be construed to derogate from the duty or responsibility of parents and guardians from children and more below 21 years of age mentioned in the third paragraphs of Articles 21, 80 of the Civil. Okay, now upon the emancipation of the child, there are still rights that are retained, and there are 6 of these. 5 of these. The first 2 are stated in the Family Code Articles 14 and 15, which are the contracted marriage. For Article 14, that contracted marriage below 21 years of age, he or she still needs a parental consent, while the next article, Article 15, is a contracted marriage above 21 but below 25, he or she still needs a parental advice. Now, the third right that's still retained upon emancipation is when a child is already emancipated but below 21 years of age, intends to execute marriage settlement. That's when parents are still needed. And the fourth, we have children are entitled to support under Article 194 of the Family Code for their education. And that's even beyond age of minority. And lastly, parents are still liable for quasi-delics as also discussed by other reporters. That's in Article 21.8.0 of the Civil Code. And the next reporter is going to discuss the summary of judicial proceedings.
Good afternoon, classmates. My name is Maynard Fernandez. So, I'll be discussing with you the summary judicial proceedings in family law. So, Articles 238 and 253 provides for the instances. So, Article 238 and 253 provides the procedural provisions for instances of matters that are governed by judicial summary proceedings. So, let's go over the articles themselves and give you a summary. So, first, for the purpose of conducting a subsequent marriage, under Article 41 of the Family Code, so this is where an absent, a present spouse institutes a judicial declaration of presumptive death on an absent spouse. Second is in case of disagreement on the matter of fixing the family domicile, as provided for under Article 69. Also, the court, the judicial summary proceeding is required if a spouse seeks exemption from living with the other if the latter should live abroad for valid and professional reasons, usually for employment. Or their spouse may exercise any legitimate professional occupation, business or activity without the consent of the other. And in this case, if the other spouse has any objections, he may institute a judicial summary proceeding to contest those activities by his or her spouse. Fifth, the administration and enjoyment of the community property or of the conjugal partnership shall belong to both spouses jointly. So, under normal circumstances, the general rule is that the husband's decision will always prevail with the rest of his decisions. The wife, however, as a remedy, can bring the matter to the attention of the courts in a summary proceeding within 5 years from the date of the implementing the decision of the husband. So, please note that this rule does not apply to cases where the consenting spouse is incapacitated to or incompetent to give consent. Sixth instance is when one spouse is absent and able to participate in the administration of the common or conjugal property, so a court of administration for the elimination of or influence of such properties may be obtained by their spouse. Seven, when a husband and wife are separated from that, or one has abandoned the other, one of them seeks judicial authority for the transaction. So in that instance, the court is also required. In cases of separation or impact or abandonment of the certain spouse, may petition for judicial authority to administer or temporary specific separate property of the abandoning spouse, use those proceeds for the support of their family. Nine. So this one, outside of the family, in case of foundlings, abandoned, neglected, or abused children, so the court, in a summary proceeding, can give parental authority to head of children's homes, orphanage, and similar locations. Duly accredited by the proper government agency. The other one is parents or in their absence or incapacity, when they're seeking to discipline their child, they may, so if they're lacking the capacity to do so, they may institute a summary proceeding again, or then allowing the court or the court allowing them to provide for the disciplinary measures. The last one is parents who jointly exercise legal guardianship over the property of their minor so they can do so without the necessity of a court appointment. However, if the market value of the property or annual income of the child exceeds 50,000 pesos, the parent concerned shall be required to furnish a fund in such amount as the court may determine. For this purpose, a verified petition for approval, or if the child is in a foreign country, in the proper part of or the place where the child or the property is situated.
Next. Yes. Last but not the least. So we'll be I'll be discussing about the funerals and actual types of the case or the discussion, sino bang mas matimbang? Ang asawa o ang kapit? So, sino may karapatan? si asawa or si kabit. So according to our Article 305, the duty and the right to make arrangements are the following in order. So may asawa siya, si asawa muna. After the asawa, if the husband or wife is not present, of course, if we are talking about spouse, dapat legal, pwede yung husband and living as husband and wife. And then the descendants of the nearest degree, so si anak or si panganay muna, and then the following. And then, if in unfortunate cases na tulad ng namatay kagad yung anak na bata pa lang siya, of course, yung descendants, and also of the nearest degree, parents muna, si father ang laging nauna. Next is, para sa magkakapatid na walang magulang, wala rin sa anak, ang magde-decide is brothers and sisters, and of course, the oldest shall be first. In case of ascendant, the paternal shall have a better right. Next, every funeral shall be in keeping with the social position of the deceased. Of course, wala na kayo pera, gusto nyo pa mag-argue ito, of course. And for some instances, tulad ng military personnel, they have their own rights and on how they want their military men na may defend. Next is, the funeral shall be in accordance with the express wishes of the deceased. Kung ano yung wish nung namatay, yun yung dapat masusunod. And as much as possible, or dapat nakasulat siya. If not nakasulat, at least walang legal impediments. And so may absence na ganon, we will go to the religious beliefs and other affiliation if there are like organization rights or fraternity rights. Dito papasok yun. Next, no human remains shall be retained. Third, disposed for without the consent of the person mentioned in Articles 294. For the cases na kailangan nang ilipat yung patay dahil gagawin yung subdivision, let's say yung dating secretary, for some instances, hindi siya pwedeng tanggalin without the consent of the following. In particular order, of course, as well. Next, any person who shows disrespect to the dead or wrongfully interferes with the funeral shall be liable to the family of the deceased for damages. So, yung pag may mga nagwawala-wala ba sa mga patay, pagtingin nila sa patay, di pala nila patay yun, so dapat sa kabila sila magwala. So, ito yung pwede kaso sa kanila. And then the construction of the tombstone or the mausoleum shall be deemed a part of the funeral expenses. It shall be chargeable to the conjugal partnership. Ano yung sa kanilang mag-asawa, ayun yung dapat nilang gagawin. So let's have a case. Mr. Gadanyo, please discuss my university. I'll call you again. Anyway, for the case, Atty. Adriano married Rosario. They had 5 children and 1 adopted child. However, yung marriage nila hindi masyado naging okay, so they parted ways. Years later, si Atty. Pogi nagkaroon ng bagong partner, si Balino, and dati niyang client, and decided to live together as husband and wife. However, Atty. Adriano died. Balino took in charge of the funeral arrangement. So, si Adriano may asawa. And then si Balino pumasok para kabit sa asawa. So, si Kabit ang namahala ng funeral arrangement. Siya ang nag-decide. Pero nung nalaman ni original wife yung nangyari, tinawagan niya si Kabit na, "Oy, pwede ba extend mo yung burol para lang makita namin yung aking asawa at yung ng mga anak ko." Pero Balino refused. So, attorney, at sinabi ni Balino na si Atty. Adriano yung may gustong malibing agad, lalo na doon sa kanilang Mausoleum ng family ni Balido. So ang issue, whether or not Rosario and his children are entitled to remains of Atty. Triano. Of course, yes. It is true that yung funeral shall be in accordance with the express wishes of the deceased. Ito yung sinasabi natin kanina. However, the disposition must not be contrary to law. Dapat walang tama na law. So, they must not violate the legal and reglementary provision concerning funeral and disposition of the remains. Whether as regards to ceremony, to be observed, time, manner, disposition, or the place of the burial. Moreover, Atty. Adriano is still married to Rosario, so Rosario still have the rights, the legal rights and duty for the deceased and the funeral and disposition. And that's it. Thank you.
Hindi po natin yung important.
Ay, sige.
Isa lang. Ikaw lang.
Tatlo ata.